about the brand new album just dropping today, Friday the 13th too. And this kind of offsets it when I hear new Wings of Steel live in France. I know that I'm not going to get that Friday the 13th experience. I'm going to get the opposite.
Well, hopefully it's,
We're not.
scary good.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's the best way to put it, Leo. So, guys, let's talk about this live album. Let's get kind of like into the background of it. It You guys did a tour no, middle of this year, correct?
Yeah, like spring this
Spring
year.
this year. Okay, so this came out, during the tour in the spring, and this album was recorded without you guys even knowing about it. Tell us that story and how all this came about, because I think it's really interesting. Good backstory here.
Yeah, so I mean, we weren't planning on doing it at all, and so um, during this tour, we played in Germany, Belgium, and France. So in France, we had two shows. Um, this was the second show in France. This is in Lille. There's this really cool theater. Had this really tall ceiling, sounded really great in there. Um, so yeah, I mean, we were just kind of going about it, and we went and played the show. And then our good friend Olivier, who helped us put together these shows in France, after the show, he walks up to us and he's like, "Hey, so we recorded that show. If you want to use it for a live album or whatever, go ahead." So we're like, "Okay, cool. I guess we have a live album," and that was it.
Nice.
I think most bands when they do a live album, they at least have some intention to do it, and they'll record a few different shows, or they'll have some way of kind of preparing for it. But
Right.
this was just okay. Like, we didn't even realize it was being recorded, but here's how we sound live. So, I mean, I think from that standpoint, it's really cool because it's like that's like that's authentic as it gets. There's nothing pre-planned in there. There's nothing like
It's great.
that's just our show. If you go and see us live, like this is pretty accurate representation of what you're gonna experience. So I
Absolutely.
think yeah.
And I think I remember, like, as we were doing the sound check, and especially as we were playing the show, and even more so when we got off the stage, I remember thinking, man, like this sounded great. Like this venue sounded great. Like the sound was huge. You could like feel the sound. We had like a few
Right.
shows like that on tour, and it's usually the bigger stages where you get that. And I remember thinking that when we walked off. So I was totally stoked to have Olivier come up and tell us that he recorded it. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely, I mean, I think out of the whole tour, it was in terms of like the sound that we had and how tight everybody was, I mean, it was definitely one of the better shows for sure. I mean, I think every show we did
Agree.
was came out really well, but yeah, it was good good that we recorded that one. So
In talking to Leo before we started here, it's funny because, I remember a lot of those classics. Obviously my first one was Kiss Alive, and that sound, that was like the initiation to the live album experience for me. But then, you got into Judas Priest and, some of the other ones that came out. And the sound of this right here, like I was telling Leo, it I think it really captures not only what you guys sound like, but that interaction with the audience. That I think when you put your headphones on and you listen to this, and you could really hear how tight this band is, because to me, I tell you guys this all the time, is how the hell can this be an independent band? I mean, this live album sounds like a band's been together for 20 years, and the band's extremely tight. This album came off so well, and I think the listeners are really gonna enjoy listening to this.
Thank you, John. I mean, when we received the sound from the show, we sat down, we talked about it, and we just came to the conclusion that let's make this sound as good as we possibly can make it sound. Let's make it sound
just like
like
all of our other studio releases, I mean, that's
Right,
kind of how
right.
we do it. We want it to sound as good as possible.
right.
Yeah, so like let's make it feel like you're in the venue, that you're in, front row or a few rows back, and like so you can experience how this show would sound like. Like I remember being a younger dude, I listened to a bunch of live albums and I loved a lot of them, whether it's, Priest or Zeppelin, or one of my favorites was Live and Dangerous from Thin Lizzy from back in
Great
'75,
band.
and
Great
yeah,
band.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I remember like the feeling you get from listening to that. It's like euphoric, like energizing feeling. So always wanted a live album. So when we received the sound and we agreed that yeah, let's just try to make it feel like you're in the venue. Like it seemed like a good place to start. And I think we got really, really, really close to it. Of course, you have to come out
Agree.
and see us if you want to get the actual feeling, but you can
That's
definitely
right.
feel it though.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think just like the energy that you capture of a live band. I mean, I think like in most cases, I mean, some bands nowadays, like the style is just to get the record and the live show are like identical. And like, I'm not gonna sit here and like that's cool for the style. But I mean, I think
Right.
about like a lot of the great bands, like another really good example of a live album, or like it's like Rainbow Live, 1977. So
Another
like
great one.
you
Right.
compare those. I mean, listen to the song, like the album version of Catch the Rainbow. It's awesome. It's really nice, well produced. It's like really cool and atmospheric. And then like the live version is just like this raw thing and it goes on a completely different journey. And like it's
Right.
it's something that like you're not gonna get in the
Mm.
studio. Like it's
Hmm.
just
It's the best, man. It's the kind of shit you listen to and you just get high. It's fantastic stuff.
That's
so
right.
it's
That's
it's
right.
it's the best. But I think my point with saying this though is that like there's energy that you get live. It's the little mistakes, or you hit this note a little more like this or that, or like you rush the section a little bit, but like I don't know, it just gives you like a real energy, and you get like a really good sense of
Yeah,
character, because like
yeah,
what you're hearing is what's being played. You're hearing two guitars, bass, drums, vocals, and that's it. And it's when it's that, even though it's produced well, so everything sounds as good as it can be, like,
Right.
there you really just the character of everybody on stage is like crystal clear. So I think that's,
yeah,
for Leo and I think it's really cool that like we get to share that, because I think at this point in the band, we're known for what we've done in the studio, but we also love playing live, and that's a really important thing for us. So
Right.
yeah.
You and Leo work so well together too, and just listening to the songs and the quality and how everything's structured and put together. Tell us about, this band, the band that you guys put together for these, for this album and these live shows, because the feedback that I get, from, media and friends, is like, holy shit, these guys sound great. And people want to know more about that backing band, because you guys really put it together. Tell us about that.
yeah. So we got Stefan Baile on rhythm guitar. He's been with us since day one, basically. Played all the shows with us.
He went to the same music school as Leo and I, actually, so we've known him for quite some time. So when
That's
we
cool.
when it first I mean the first time we needed to put together a band was for our very, very first show we did in, what was it, August of 2022, I think. So yeah, he's been there since then. He's every band endeavor of Wings of Steel he's been there for. So, and we love him. He's great.
Yeah,
But
great dude, fantastic guitar player.
Nice.
And then for the other two members, so we got new guys for this tour, and we had to do some like auditions to find the right people. So we had a couple of people that we tried out, really good musicians, and ultimately we went with two guys. We went with bass player Mathieu Trobeck, who is from Belgium. Again, another excellent guy and really, really proficient bass player, super talented. And then for drums, we have a guy from Germany by the name of Marcel Binder, who again, like all just great
Nice.
people. I think that really comes through when you play live too. Not only do you like um, feel how like tight it is in terms of being a musician and playing together, but like you feel the chemistry, and I think that really comes through a lot as well, especially as you grow
Really
together
does.
as a unit on tour. So we're super happy with the guys that we play with on this tour, and we hope we get to keep playing with them.
yeah, all great dudes. Yeah, I hope that we can stick with this lineup and continue to get tight and develop that chemistry as long as we can. I mean, of course, we were talking
Right.
before this interview, like the other hurdle we have to overcome is visas if we want to come to the US, and
Right.
so we have to find a way to figure all that out. But yeah, we great dudes. We want to stick with them as long as we can. So
Yeah, to build that, like Leo said, that chemistry that early, and to put those guys together, and it, like I said, it sounds like it's a band that's been there. It sounds like it's a band that's ready to conquer, and I think another thing that people are going to hear with this album is the hunger in this band. There's so many bands, that get to that stage later on that they, kind of just go through the motions and they don't give it all. But you guys look like, hey, we're throwing raw meat on a stage and the band's going to eat. And this is what we're projecting to that audience. And I think that when people listen to Live in France, everybody that's listening, that's the feel that you're going to get because this band's hungry and this band is mega talented. So that's the way I feel about that album. And I think you guys really projected that well on this.
That's great, man. I mean, I think, a thing that contributes a lot to it is the fact that everyone in the band is really stoked on the music and everyone gets to play, stuff that is fun to play and that's advanced for them to play, So I think that really keeps
That's
it
right.
interesting. And yeah, so the fact that everyone really loves the music, of course, is very important. The fact that everyone feels like they can give it their best and give it everything they got and still learn while playing is that's a great spot to be in for any band.
yeah, there's not
Right.
there's not a lot of ego on stage or any of that stuff. We all do what we need to do, and it's all about just making the best music. It's not about, trying to outdo this guy or that guy or whatever. Like there's none of that shit. It's just about
Right.
kick-ass music, really.
I,
Everybody, we're all cool with everybody,
He's laughing.
no issues, there's nothing, it's all good. So I
I
think
was
that,
gonna say
yeah.
I heard Parker on the backing vocals. I think he's gonna be the lead vocalist in a few years here.
Well,
He's taking over.
there might be some little ego battles going on, but
You have to have
No, but
those. I mean,
it's
you're gonna have something, yeah.
no, but it's cool. Like the chemistry is really great, which is, I mean, it's really freaking fascinating too. Because before we actually met for the first time, we had like 2 or 3 Zoom calls with everyone, right? And then we did a couple of rehearsals, not too many really. Of course, everyone practiced the songs ahead of time. Parker got together with Stefan and Marcel practiced in his drum lab or whatever he's got, and Marcel practiced, Matt practiced on his own, and I did my thing here. But we had like 4 or 5 rehearsals before the tour, and then the rest we kind of like we played the shows and we grew as a band, grew as a unit as we went along on the tour. But even from the get-go, like it sounded really good. And yeah, everyone gets along great, and fuck, I can't wait to meet all the guys again and just get back out there.
That's cool. We're looking forward to it, believe me. Hopefully US. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, man. Believe me. Believe me. I wanted to bring up, to you guys, and I want to talk to you, bring it up individually like this. And I want to start with you, Leo, because, I think of vocalists, in this genre, and a lot of the new stuff that's coming out, you hear a lot of people kind of sounding the same, like a lot of the songs are the same, the structure. It's almost like they're trying to overproduce everything than rather be this, themselves. They're trying to attain what somebody else wants. And what I hear out of you is, I think like Midnight of Crimson Glory, who I think is an absolutely amazing vocalist. And I think an early Jeff Tate and guys like that. Tell us about you as a vocalist and the style and if I'm coming to a Wings of Steel show and I've never heard you guys before, what am I going to hear out of Leo Unnermark?
Well, I think what you'll hear is I try to always sing from the soul, straight out the heart. I try not to stick to anything that I've like pre-scripted before. Like I know the songs, I know how they go, but I try to never sing them quite the same. It's just more fun that way. Let improvisation and creativity flow freely live. I feel like that's how you get the best stuff live as well. In terms of like as a vocalist, it's really hard to say. I never really went out of my way to try and like imitate a lot of vocalists, other than when I just started singing. I was in a again a Thin Lizzy cover band and also a Van Halen cover band, and people
Right.
don't really compare me a lot to David Lee Roth or Phil Lynott. So, but I think maybe the style of singing or whatever, like it'll remind some people of Joff Tate or Tony Harnell, stuff, guys like that, Midnight,
Right.
which is, that's cool. I don't really try to sound like anyone. I just kind of do my thing, and whatever comes out comes out. And hopefully, I will continue to develop and get better as we go ahead as well. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much what I got.
I think the other thing too on this note of comparison, and I try to make this point where I can, like I actually think people, the way our music sounds, like it gives the impression that we listen to a lot more Queensryche and Crimson Glory than people think. Um, I think the reality is,
Right.
is that we're actually more influenced by the bands that influence those guys than those bands themselves. So I mean, like, Leo and
Right.
I, we really, really, really love all the 70s stuff. So we're talking like Deep Purple and Thin Lizzy and the early Judas Priest and Rainbow, of course, Sabbath,
Great
the
stuff.
Scorpions. All that stuff is like, I think that's made a pretty big impact on us musically. So I think that certainly has certainly worth noting that that's probably what gives us a closer comparison to a lot of these bands than the direct influence itself, I guess. Um,
You could hear those pieces too. I mean, you guys don't have just that, like you said, it's not identifiable. It's different. There's so many elements when I listen, and a lot of people say that too. Is it's just not, like what everybody's doing now. It's these guys are doing something different, and they're doing it better. I
Yeah,
think
I
that's the
mean,
best way to compare it.
yeah, you do some soul digging, man. You write the music you want to write and you put it out there, man. You don't I don't There's no need to try and sound like stuff that's being put out currently because something might be successful. I mean, I think it's a failure as a business model when you try to take your music and adapt it to business rather than taking your business and adapting it to the music, right?
Right.
So I think that's the thing. You got to stay authentic and you got to stay true to who you are and just believe in whatever you're going to put out. People are going to like it so long as it comes from the right place and you stay true to it.
yeah, I mean, you got to think the greatest records in history, man. They probably weren't written because somebody was like actively trying to like mimic someone directly per se. I mean, I'm sure there's been some weird exceptions, so, but by
Right.
and large, like, I mean, all the great, huge Titanic albums of history, like, they're just people writing the music that they feel like writing that they like. And I think, I mean, this is sound, this when you put it like this, it sounds kind of selfish, but I think in reality, it's like you have to write the stuff that like you want to hear, that like that gets you
Right.
going, because that's if it gets you going, it's gonna get somebody else going. So like that's really like, even though it sounds like when you put it like that, it sounds kind of backwards, but it like in reality, like that's how you have to write music, because like if you're not
Right.
inspired by it, if it doesn't have a piece of you in it, something that inspires you, like it's but you can't expect anybody else to see that. So I
Yeah.
think
That's right.
so long as that's the case, I think it's all good, and it's fun. If you're writing music and it's not inspiring you, like it's a drag. It's a lot of work to write and
That's right.
a song
That's
and
right.
do all that shit, you know. And it's not like us here in the music business are, driving around in Rolls Royces or whatever. Like this isn't like,
That's right.
it's not like this is a thing you just put up with for money. Like, no, I mean, like you're not you gotta be stoked on it to get through it. It's a lot of stuff to do, so um but yeah.
That's right. It's an art. It's an art. And you got to
Yeah,
have that passion too. And that's what's projected here for sure. Well
absolutely.
put. Well put. Both of you. Hey, Parker, and I want to go, and talk about you now too, because, when I listen to these songs, like I say, you guys work so well together. You feed off of each other, which is a great thing. Tell us about you as a guitar player, because I hear, obviously influences, but I love the sound that you bring to this. It's not, hey, I can identify it with somebody. But I mean, for, a young and upcoming guitar player, that's ready to hit the scene and already hitting the scene hard. I love not only the sound, but the style and what you guys bring. Tell us about, playing guitar right now for this band and I'm coming to the show and what am I going to hear from Parker on this side?
Yeah, I mean it's I try to as I've grown into an older and wiser 22-year-old man, I try to I try to just really when I was younger, it was all about the shred and the notes, and just trying to for the most I mean I had a little bit of this too back then, so I might be exaggerating, but you know now as an older person, I really try to it's all about the song and it's all about the experience and the vibe that you pick up listening to the music. That's the most important thing. I don't I like to shred and do flashy stuff and I can do stuff like that and I throw it in the music all over the place, but it's not, that's not like the sole focus of what I do, So I really think that it's I mean a lot of times what people forget is like most or at least a large portion of the song is rhythm guitar playing. So you
That's
got to
right.
come up with a cool riffs and you got to be tight rhythmically, you got to have that and there's different ways to be expressive and kind of have your own style in that regard, And then of course there's the lead playing, and
Right.
within the lead playing, there's, which ways do you shred? What kind of lines do you use to phrase? How do you hit notes? What's your vibrato like? Do you use cool effects? Do you use delay or a phaser, or do you use other, you throw little stuff in there like that? So there's just the guitar is just an infinite universe of different sonic, flavors to
That's
explore.
right.
Um, and so I think for me, I just try to explore and expand and everywhere that I can. And in a way um, that serves the song and creates a really cool atmospheric experience, and that it works with everything. It works with the vocals and the bass and the drums, and because when you flow together with it, you create something really cool as opposed to just you know putting your fucking thing all over the place and being like, look how cool I am, and you're just kind of ruining
Right,
the
right,
song a little
exactly.
bit. I mean, look, there's some guys out there who do that and they're really cool, and I have nothing bad to say about those guys, um but just my style, I prefer to be a little more about the song, but I can still do some ripping and I can still be flashy with it, so I think it's a cool balance. That's in
That's
like
right.
in principle that's my guitar playing, so
It's cool to hear because when you talked about that, when I talked to George Lynch, he said the same thing. He said it was always about the rhythm, and he says in the solo is just us having a couple minutes to show off. But that's really what's important to these songs, and what I like about what you do with your solo is the fact that it fits the song. And like you said, that structure is all there and it flows so nicely. And everything that you guys have put together so far has that vibe. It's not about, like you said, one guy standing out. It's a band atmosphere, and it's two guys that work very well together. And I continue to say that because it's something that you don't see all the time. I mean, there's like, the perfect situations, whether it be a movie or music or whatever it is, that where you have two people or a cast, it's just a once in a lifetime thing. And when it happens, it's magic. And I think that's what you guys are putting together here now, for us as listeners and for, future generations too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you brought something cool up there. I'll say that too. Like, I think with the guitar solos, it's really you always have your focus on the lead guitar, but the reality is the thing that makes that solo, it's like a painting. If you don't have a canvas to paint your thing over, what are you doing? I mean, there's some
Right.
abstract art out there that found a way to get around that, but I mean, with in the terms of music, it's in a song in most cases, unless it's like if it's a solo guitar piece, that's one thing. But um, you know, it's you work with the background, and it's really the background that helps to create the solo, even though that's not where the general listener's focus is.
Right.
But yeah, but that's, you know, that goes into what you tied in there next is like, yeah, it's all about just finding ways to work together, but also try to get the best out of each other, you know? Because
Hmm.
um
Right.
I think when it's not just about trying to get the best out of one person or that, it's about trying to get the best out of everybody and getting something that kind of just supports itself. And you know, I think that's how you
Right.
write the best music. But
Yeah. I think what I'll say on like guitar solos too, because I'm a huge lover of guitar solos. I'm really happy to be working with Parker, who's such an excellent solo guitar player and rhythm guitar player.
oh, you are so flattering, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome,
Hey,
man.
that's his job, right?
Exactly, exactly, yeah. No, but what I was gonna say is that the guitar, much like the voice, is an instrument where you can channel your emotion through, right? I think that's the most important thing, and that's how you get my favorite guitar solos ever. You know, that's like I listened to a lot of blues growing up, and the thing about those solos is they're not always the most flashy solos, but they got a tremendous amount of emotion tied into them that reflects the voice
Right.
really well and so forth. Um, and so much like Parker described with, a painting, like you can have just black and white, and that's cool. Like black's my like favorite color. That's really dope. That's fine. But if you have more colors available to you, you can choose to express more, right? If you have a face, you can put
Right.
some red on the cheeks, and that means something. Like you can always throw nuances in there, a lot of different emotions. And I feel like Parker does it really well on the guitar. I feel like that's something that's super important in any given solo in a song. You can slap on a backing track and you can do like cool technical shit and scaly stuff, and that's cool. There's a time and place for just do it. But if you want
Right.
to carry the journey and like serve the song, which is what we're talking about, right? That's the way
Right.
you do it. You kind of pick up the vibe from the song, the vocal, the atmosphere, and you continue the journey when it's time for the solo, when it's time for the verse. And I feel like that's how you get a really cohesive piece of music that's more than just a
That's right.
song.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. There's that little piece, that well, people that really listen, they understand that, how moving a good solo could be within the context of a song. And that's definitely the point. And that kind of leads me into when you guys are writing a song, Wings of Steel is, you and Parker are together and you guys are going to start writing. What's some of the things that you start with? Like the ideas, is it a riff that Parker comes up with? Is it a chorus? Is it a bridge? Any of that? What's some, ways that you guys start to structure a new song?
Uh, I
Any of
don't think
that.
there's
Any of that.
yeah, yeah.
Anything, yeah.
There's really not one answer to it. I mean,
Right,
like the way we come up with the ideas is sometimes I'll sit here and I'll come up with something. I'll record it on my phone, and then whenever we go to record, I'll show it to Parker. Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes it still needs some work. He'll do the same thing, and we'll find like a cool riff or something. So typically that's where we start with a riff, and then we'll put that in the project that we're working in, and then we'll kind of build a song around that. And it tends to kind of build itself. We'll do guitars, then we'll do bass, and then we'll like program the drums because we kind of know what it is we're going for. When that's all
right,
in there, we can then record the vocals, get the lead guitars in, and like get a good demo going. So that's pretty much like how we go about writing the stuff. But as to like how the ideas come to be, there's not just like one way that we go about it.
Yeah, it's
right,
it's really the whole rest of the song can kind of spring from. I mean, I don't, maybe music and algebra isn't the best comparison, but with algebra, it's like, okay,
right,
this variable, but because you know this variable, you can figure out these other two variables. And like music isn't, it's not, writing a song isn't necessarily like an analytical process. Sometimes it just kind of, just flows out. It's a creative process, but
right,
um it's similar in the sense that like if you have like one part of the song, you have one riff or you have one section, like oftentimes like the rest of the song is going to kind of just flow out from there. So that's, yeah, it's really cool. But the part of our process that I
right.
forgot to mention is once we have the demo, then we go and we hit up our guy and we get some drums done and we have real drums on there and then it gets mixed and then it gets released and that's what you hear. So
That's great stuff. That's great stuff. You guys brought that up too, and I always, a lot of the guys that I interview or musicians that I interview talk about when they have their phones and they record like one snippet, and then I remember a couple of them telling me they have like 500 on the phone, and then they just go through, and then years later they find it, and that's the song. So I mean, the
Yeah.
process.
hmm
What do you guys feel like the process is now? I mean, so many musicians, have to do what you guys have to do, guys in different countries and you don't have that chance to sit in a studio, and go through it, because of the costs and, obviously logistically. But how do you guys feel about that, recordings? I think, what you put together, on the previous albums, it just came together so nicely. You feel that it's difficult to do it that way, or is it just a
Well, when Leo and I write, I mean, sure, like we come up with ideas constantly year round. So like we have a lot of material to go into it, but like when we sit down and write and record the albums, like we're sitting right where I'm sitting right now. We're hanging out here together and we're jamming it out in real time and we're getting a sense for it. So like, it's
That's
not
cool.
I mean we have attempted to like put together some demos with the distance, but it's just a longer process and it takes longer to bounce stuff off of each other and everything. And it's just like, you know what,
Right.
like we'll just wait till we're on the same place and then we'll do it. But yeah, too, I mean, with that, like, our process is because we really started writing music together during COVID when we were kind of like stuck inside. I mean, we were living together, so it was cool, but like we couldn't really go out and jam with anybody else. Like we just
Right.
kind of decided like, okay, like, we can write a drum part, I can play the bass, like we just and we started just writing music like that where we basically wrote everything in the band and like that's kind of what we got good at doing and that's how we do it now. So like it just kind of that's how we do it and it works, and that's yeah. So um
And when you do things that works, it's a good deal, man.
yeah, that's
You got to
Absolutely.
stick with it.
if
You
it
find
if it
that
ain't
process.
broke, don't fix it,
That's
That's what
it.
they
That's
say.
That's
it.
right. And yeah, Parker
So
mentioned, we've tried to do it like, I'm out in Europe, he's in the US, and we're bouncing back and forth, trying to get something figured out. I just don't think like for us, that's the way to do things. I know some people do, and it's completely fine. But when you're like together and you're coming up with stuff, it's usually like that in the moments ideas that you really got to catch. So there'll be like a riff and then you'll hear some kind of a rhythm that might go really cool underneath it that might change the riff ever so slightly, but that's just it. Stuff like that happens in the moment and you got to be there for it.
That's right. That's right. It's a good feeling to be able to throw things off of each other and be right there, rather
mhm.
than you're asleep and he thinks of something, and then he has to wait till you wake up and send it, and it gets kind of crazy like that. That's all. I hear that all the time too. Now, guys, with this live album, you know, let's tell the fans what they have to look forward to. Anybody that hasn't heard it yet, obviously it came out today, and it's fresh, but it's really a live album that I kind of think I look at it, you know, almost like a studio album. It's that good because I think it really has that energy and it has that pulse, that the listener gets to hear. And like I said, when I put my headphones on, I got that thing cranked, and I want to capture everything. And I'm there. I'm seeing you guys live for the first time. Tell us about what the fans have to look forward to when they hear Live in France.
Right. So if you've never heard us live before, and I'll let Parker speak to this too, but if you've never heard us live before and you're going into this album thinking, what to expect, um, if you missed all of our shows when we went on tour, or if we didn't make it to your country, which is very, very likely because we only played in 3 on this tour, um, at any of our shows that we played, the energy was really good, and this one really captures like the atmosphere and the energy that you would get at one of our shows. And I think you mentioned like it kind of reminds you of a studio album a little bit. I think that's because the way we've got it mixed, which is really good, it certainly makes you feel like you're standing there right in the middle of the venue, and you totally get that live feel. But there's one hook you gotta, or one catch, you have to crank it up a little bit, right? But if you
That's
like heavy
right.
metal, you probably don't mind doing that, and you probably should, because otherwise you won't hear it because you got hearing impairment and shit.
That's
But
right.
yeah, so there's that, and of course, Parker, give me your take on it.
I mean, yeah, I think the thing for us is that, and I think I was talking about this earlier, but like you can hear us like that is an actual real life recording of us going there and playing a show and performing in real time with all of its, beautiful moments and imperfections and everything. Like you can that is like the truest recording of a musician you're gonna get is like live. Because in the studio, you do everything and you want everything to be perfect. So you'll do it a few times to make sure you got like the perfect thing. And that's cool because that's what you want in the studio. The studio should be as good as possibly can. Live
Mhm.
show, you're just there and you're playing and you're going off the energy and okay, you miss a few notes here and there, or you do a couple extra things here and there, like cool, like but the thing is like you get a sense of like that actual musician, the real like that's as real as it gets. And I mean, and as we talked about earlier, like the circumstances of this album's like literally like we didn't even know it was being recorded. Like this is if you come see us live, this is what you're gonna get. So like I think,
Right.
again, for Leo and I, because we've only done stuff in the studio, like we thought it was like really, really, really important to us to like have something like that out there. And so and now it's out there. So we're like, fuck yeah.
That's a great album. I can't wait for everybody that's listening to hear it though, man. I highly recommend it. And even the past things that you guys have done, obviously Gates of Twilight, and then the first album too. I mean, just the quality is just there. And like I said, when you have it, you have it. So everybody that's listening, check out Live in France. Go to the back catalog too, because you get to hear what the studios sound like, but then you get to hear these guys live, and I think it's very impressive, with that sound. There's no doubt about it. And guys, what about a favorite track on this? In listening back, I mean, which one do you think sounds like, hey man, this really I can't even pick one. I mean, I think I go back to Cry of the Dam because that was the first song I heard from you guys. And I hear that live, I'm like, damn, this it almost sounds like the military, is crashing in France and they're hitting Normandy and we're ready to go. But that's what it reminds me of. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's hard to answer that question, man. I mean, we really like all of them. We really love all of them. I mean, this set had like 15 or 16 songs or something like that, I think, maybe even 17. And we had to pick and choose. We chose 8 really solid tracks. I think like if I had to choose, I think She Cries sounds really good. Rhythm of Desire sounds really good. But the
Agree.
opening, like Fall in Line, the way that song opens, and like you really get the energy of the live album straight off the bat, and I think it's just firing off on all cylinders. Like that's the opening of the set. That's exactly what you would get if you came out. So I think that's also a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I mean, you said
Great.
it, man.
It's
Like,
great.
you gotta like really, you gotta listen to the whole thing. Like, there's, some song like, and this is with any show. Like, some nights, some songs just really, really came out magically. But I mean, throughout this whole set, like, there's moments, there's moments in the whole thing, and it's really just kind of like whatever you like best is gonna be your favorite. I don't think it's it's,
Mhm.
it's fair for Leo and I to tell you which ones came out better or not because they all came out really, really great. Um, but yeah.
That is, man. I totally agree. Like I said, it's tough to pick one out, but like I said, when you first put that on, it's amazing. It's a great listen. So, guys, tell everybody where they could get this. Obviously CDs out. You're able to get it here in the U.S. and in Europe, but digital. They can listen. But tell everybody where they could get this album and anything that's Wings of Steel, how they can connect with you.
Sure. So you'll find all our stuff, all our albums, CD, vinyl, shirts. See, I got the Live in France shirt on me today because it's release day, so
I
gotta
gotta
wear
get
it.
that shirt, man.
It's
I
super
got one. I got
comfortable
one
too.
too. I just pulled it out. I gotta put it on. But
Look at that guy, man.
There you
Yeah.
go.
You had all morning, man.
Yep, yep.
Hey, you
No,
just
but
wanted to show what the package looked like. That's all.
Yeah.
that's
Well,
right. Yeah,
it'll
This is
yeah.
what you
come
get in the
nice
mail,
and
man.
wrapped up in good condition,
Yeah.
and then you can pull it out and throw
That's
it on.
it. That's
Listen,
it.
yeah. We don't try them on before we send them out. We're that confident, you know.
That's
But
it.
so yeah, all the CDs, vinyl, shirts, we got hoodies. It's all available at wingsofsteelband.com, which is our official website. It's all shipping from the US. If you're interested in getting some of our titles from, and especially Live in France from Europe, you'll find them at undergroundpowerrecords.de. He's got links on his website that leads to eBay, which is where you'll find them.
And then yeah, so that's if you want to buy the physical music, but for streaming and digital, I mean, every major platform that's out there, you'll find this live album on. You'll find it on Spotify, Apple, Tidal, Deezer, YouTube, you name it. It's almost definitely there. So yeah, and then I mean, I'd say too, like if you like to stream or you want to buy the music or anything, however you listen to the music, number one, crank it up. But number two, tell your friends because that's how the word spreads, you know. We
That's
do what
right.
we can to advertise and do all this stuff, but the reality is the way the word gets around is one guy listens to it, cranks it up, he goes, "Holy shit, this is awesome." And then he tells his buddy, and his buddy goes, "Holy shit, this is awesome." And he tells his buddy, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And that's the best thing, you know. So
That's it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the cool thing about the heavy metal community, because that's our story right there. You know, that's how it happened for us. Sure, we've been doing, you know, social media promotion, other means of promotion, and it's all really good and really great. But the word of mouth has been the by far the most contributing factor to our success so far. And lastly, what I'll say too is check out
That's
our
right.
social media, because there's some footage from the show that we're putting up there, in, you know, smaller clips, but still it's it's cool to see, and you'll hear it with the actual audio. So check that out too.
Yeah,
That is cool
unfortunately,
stuff.
because we weren't planning on recording the show, we didn't get it. Like we would, if we knew this was happening, we would have gotten this thing professionally filmed so that we could have the whole live DVD and everything. But
That's right.
unfortunately,
now you
that's
get the phone recordings.
you know. But yes, there are some recordings. So if you check us out, yeah, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I think we even throw them on YouTube too. There's the shorts thing there. So.
Yeah.
That's
There
the
is.
footage we have from the show. So if you want to kind of get a sense of the visual, you can check those out. There's also some pictures floating around. I mean, they're in. If you got the vinyl or the CD, you'll see them. There's some cool shots of us on stage at this venue, and so you can kind of get a sense a little bit of what this show recorded looked like. But yeah,
Yeah, and let us know how you like it, and what's your favorite song too.
of course.
Yeah, we got it. We got to spread it. You know, that's funny though, because, you know, even you said if you would have recorded that professionally, you know, you wouldn't have had that edge. You know, you would have been looking, hey, you know, we're recording this. But I think what you guys did right here, you know, this really is a great representation of what this band's about. And I think the people that are listening are going to hear this. And in closing, guys, I want to say thank you for doing what you do. Like I tell everybody, because, you know, you guys are basically just starting out, you know, in this. And all I got to say is, man, I love listening to you. And I know that, you know, when my bad days are there, I can throw this in and I got a smile on my face. And the good days, I crank it up, my ears are exploding, my headphones are shaking, windows are shaking, neighbors are screaming, but I don't even care.
There you
You know,
go.
so that's it.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
thanks for doing what you do, man, for making the commitment, you know, for putting all this together and the sacrifices to bring this great music to us, man. So
Mm.
guys, I can't say enough about how much I love this band and how much I think that you guys are really taking it and doing it the right way. And this is going to be a household name in the
Mhm.
years to come. So everybody that's listening, Wings of Steel, live in France, get out, support these guys, listen to everything that they have and everything that's coming up too, because I know you guys are in a writing process now, and we'll get into that at a later date. But Man, I can't wait to hear that new stuff. I'm telling you.
Yeah, there's plenty of more stuff coming. We're working on more dates. Hopefully, we'll get over to the U.S. as well, and we'll keep you updated for sure. Thanks for all those words, man. Thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure being with you.
Yeah, thanks again, and thank you to everyone out there who has supported us and helped us get this far, man. Your support is the world to us. So we hope to continue to do what we do in the most kick-ass way possible for as long as possible. All right.
You got it. You guys are driving it already, man. Thanks for being on the show, guys. I mean, you have an open invite here. You know, anytime you want to come on to announce anything, talk about anything, talking to Fastlane, Wings of Steel, everybody. Wings of Steel live in France again. Check out the guy's website. Check out the guys on social media. And they're very personable too. Reach out with your questions. Talk to them. Interact with them. This band is the real deal. One of my favorite bands. I say so much about them because I think it's really a great thing that you guys are doing. So best of luck with Live in France, guys. And we'll see you again on Talking to Fastlane.
Thank you so much, John.
Man.
Rock on.
See you.